Hello there, it's Steve here in Sydney of the Gnosis website, truebluehealer.com, where in just 20 minutes you can get takeaway physical evidence of your divine spark activation. It repeats once you leave the website. It's only 20 minutes, it's free, and it will reveal to you what you really are. I know it's very pleasant. Currently, whatever you are, you think it's great, and the world is full of delights to follow and chase. However, a lot of it is misbelief. You don't understand what you really are. And once you do know that, you're really much better off. It's a much more profitable way to be. truebluehealer.com, 20 minutes. That's all I need to say about that. Now, what I'd like to talk about is just a few things happening in Washington now, which are going to affect the world a long time. One of the things is, as days go by, more and more corruption is being revealed from the previous administration. It seems basically Obama was head of an organised crime syndicate. There are emails where it is clearly and openly discussed in WikiLeaks emails tied to people's names that they were actually running a pedophile ring from the White House. The discussion went along the lines of, do you really think we should include the White House in our network of pedophile places? Why don't we just leave the White House out of the loop so it looks better to investigators if ever they look? And no, they went ahead. They were so bold and so convinced they were going to win the next election and they would be in power forever. And so really covering their tracks didn't really matter much. And what surprises me is their addiction to emails is going to hang them all, because they've basically detailed their criminality in in undeniable detail, with time and date stamps and names and all that. So it is truly astonishing that organised crime will long term be undone by personal addictions to email. The joy of typing something off and it's all done in a few seconds and instant worldwide communication. And it's so not, we all like tapping away at emails, don't we? Well, it's ultimately going to hang them, I think. It is truly amazing to me that they could fall for such a personal addiction as being addicted to emails. It's going to be their long-term undoing. It's going to take a while, because we're talking about 600, 7,000, 100,000, 800,000 emails, aren't we? Just starting with the one laptop and that sort of thing. So I'm amazed at that, truly amazed at it, that organised crime people couldn't moderate their own behaviour and think, if you keep writing everything down, one day you might get caught. And then, amazingly, Podesta didn't get hacked. He gave away his password to a phishing email that just said, we'd like to check all your personal details if you don't mind. Just put your password in the slot there, would you? It's an identity check, right? He fell for that, and he's a master criminal. One of the best criminals in the world, one of the best conspirators ever born on the planet. And here he is falling for a simple criminal ploy, a petty criminal ploy, such as a phishing email. And he gave away tens of thousands of emails. Goodness gracious. The personal email server thing goes a long way, further than you really want it to go. It goes all the way to Chicago. Rahm Emanuel, when he was in the White House, he had a personal email server too. And where else does it go? It even goes into the Trump White House. Mike Pence, the Vice President, has a private email server. That's been hinted at in like an accidental slip in some written communication. So hasn't this administration learned from the previous administration, don't do that? Goodness gracious. It stuns me how silly these professionally corrupt people are. Another great surprise is Trump's retainment of Comey, the head of the FBI. He was the one that said the week before the election that although Hillary Clinton's been incredibly stupid putting her emails out in the sun for everyone to look at, there's no criminal intent in doing that. He couldn't find any, so he didn't say anything, didn't say anyone should be charged. But I've personally seen the email, and I'm sure you've seen it too, where she originally wrote expressing intention to commit this criminal act, this breach of security. She wrote to Colin Powell and said, how do you get around the problem of writing everything down on the state.gov White House email system? And Colin Powell wrote back and said, I had the same problem years ago, and I sort of kept going with my own personal email and using that to send back channel messages to people, that sort of thing, you see. And I got, from the tone of it, I got the impression that he's basically sort of implying in the way he answered her, I wish you hadn't asked me this question. Because it is an expression of intent. None of that was written down, but sort of like, it was a short answer and the tone of it was, I wish you hadn't asked me. And that's what Comey didn't see, and I'm wondering whether Comey's been left in place. I don't know why he covered up for Hillary. I suspect he was threatened, blackmailed. He could have been threatened with murder. He could have been threatened with his family being slaughtered. You really don't know what they've got on him. Does everyone who gets to the top of the power pyramid have blackmailable attributes? It would seem so. It would seem so. And I'm wondering how long Comey's going to last as head of the FBI, because he's actually refused to do things that Trump has asked him to do. It's a bit suspicious. And why is he surrounding himself? Why has Trump surrounded himself with so many establishment people? That's a question being raised by a number of concerned commentators. And the answer seems to be that if you drain the swamp completely, Washington will be empty. The whole structure would just collapse. So you've got to leave some establishment people in there, no matter how much you hate them. You've got to have a lot of CFR people on your consultative committees and that sort of thing around the president. But a little ray of sunshine might be, and I've got my fingers crossed here, Trump doesn't have to listen to these establishment internationalists, the CFR people. He can listen to them, nod, his eyes can glaze over, then he can walk out the room and do what he likes. For example, evidence that he doesn't listen to everybody's advice is very good, and I don't think the CFR people and all the establishment people he's been forced to employ would have said, Donald, go out and arrest 1,500 pedophiles, which is likely to stretch all around the world to include Portugal, the Vatican, God knows what state governments, the whole thing. So it might even stretch to the British royal family. The links go that far. So I don't think any establishment people advising him would have told him, yes, go after all the pedophiles, see if you can get another 5,000, choke the courts with pedophile cases. Sooner or later it's got to get into the press, or the citizen journos will do it for us anyway. I don't think Donald Trump would have been given any advice of that nature from establishment people that he's forced to use, because there's really no good guys left. He's only got his own personal friends and a few military people he's met over the years. I find it truly amazing that the whole Washington system is rotten through and through. Many of Trump's phone calls were apparently tapped back at Trump Towers shortly before the election, possibly even before that. There's a pile of evidence from a fellow called Levin, who's got a very loud presentation and a very impressive presentation of mountains of written evidence, printouts all over the place, of orders being authorised, at least by Obama's underlings, to tap Trump's phone. Now, when every phone in America can be tapped, Obama comes out with this bland reassurance, a denial from his little bunker 2 miles down the road, that absolutely not, we don't bug American telephones, we just don't do it. You can trust me because I'm using my most reassuring tone. Just like he said there's no corruption in elections before the election. Do you remember that? There's absolutely no problem with corruption in our elections. It's all done by the states. I remember him saying that, and it was so convincing. But he's a professional liar. And all criminals lie, don't they? Most of them lie to the day they go behind bars. And I suspect with the almost daily revelations of ever-growing corruption, that a lot of them will be going behind bars, and you just have to give Donald Trump's administration time, because legal things always take a long time, and he's only been there, a few weeks still. So we can keep our fingers crossed for that. If you want to know how many neocons there are, or potential neocons if they ever get into power, they're lying in wait, and they were produced in crops by a man called Strauss, who began lecturing neocon philosophy in 1948. So there's been generations of potential neocons produced. So that really, and they all went into the Washington establishment to basically turn it into a swamp of evil creatures. Strauss is the name. You can research that, but it's a deliberate philosophy of projecting power overseas and keeping everybody else off balance, and lining the pockets of the military-industrial complex shareholders. So Mr. Strauss was responsible for that. Now, on another matter, it's been pointed out, it's been said, much ado has been made about Facebook censoring news, certainly for its own users. We've heard about nasty algorithms that filter out positive news, and you only get liberal sort of news there, you see. Well, I've got personal experience of exactly the opposite. I don't use Facebook or Twitter because I think it's a complete waste of one's existence. I was forced to finally open a Facebook account because I subscribe to a blog called Occidental Observer, which is very conservative. It's all about white people and how good they are. I like hearing about this. So, and I get almost daily updates off Facebook, you see. And on the basis of the fact that they know I've read a few of these items, these articles, they suddenly started sending me very recently a variety of feel-good articles about Donald Trump. All good news, deriding liberals, praising Donald Trump to the skies, you see. So I'm thinking, in fact, they were so nice, such fawning articles, that I thought they must be fake news. So I started investigating them, and they do seem genuine. They are based on reported facts on the TV and that sort of stuff, and things known and documents generated. But I'm not being fed fake news. I'm being told exactly what I want to hear off Facebook, even though I have an inactive account. They took the liberty of doing that, you see. So there's something to think about. The so-called censoring of news on Facebook is not happening to me. They're doing quite the opposite. They're telling me what I want to hear, and I'm getting a bit weary of every time I log on. There's 3 feel-good stories waiting before I read anything else. It's almost like it's just too good to be true. I get all these lovely right-wing rants about the rule of law and common sense and justice and that sort of stuff. All the stuff I like to hear, and there's so much of it, I'm becoming suspicious. I don't know what Facebook's game is doing this. So, one possible explanation is that because I'm in Sydney, Australia, my opinion doesn't matter and I can be allowed to read what I like. Whereas other countries where groupthink is strategically important to political outcomes and corporate outcomes, that maybe this is done on a country-by-country basis. I mean, I know Israel gets different articles from Europe, completely opposite, that sort of thing. So news is supplied and written according to the demographics of the nation that the publishing is taking place in. So I'm wondering if it's just because I'm in Sydney, we don't matter. It doesn't matter what I think or what I read. Whereas if I was in an American state, I might be suffering Facebook censorship. Or if I was in Germany, say, we know that Angela Merkel just loves censoring everybody. So the possibility is it doesn't matter what I read. I'm still highly suspicious of Facebook, though.